So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. And I'll be quick about this. I have a question over here which was being asked on Quora, which says, how do I connect Ansible with AWS? So before I explain this, my name is Alex Michael, and I am a DevOps engineer, also a cloud engineer. And all what I do is, I know I love anything automation. I love everything configuration. I also love anything that has to do with cybersecurity and penetration testing. So these are what I do in the IT or technology field, as most of us actually know it as. So yeah, so this is the question I actually have over here now. Be fast about it so I can explain to you as quick as possible. So the first thing I have to do is this. But before I go into spinning up servers and having to install Ansible and then having to do a lot of package installations, the first thing I have to do is to explain what Ansible is in less than a minute. So Ansible is actually a configuration tool and also an automation tool, which you actually use in telling servers this is what you should do, instead of you having to do a process or a task multiple times, having to just say you want to install Apache, instead of you having to install Apache over and over and over and over again. Rather, you can just use Ansible in automating the task. Or maybe you want to do a server deployment, or rather you want to do a website deployment or an application deployment. So what you have to do, you can actually configure an Ansible server where you'll be able to automate that task. So that is what it's trying to say. Ansible is a good tool for DevOps engineers, and of course, DevOps, the life of a DevOps, or should I say an average DevOps engineer, is automation to make things easier. So that is what Ansible actually does. So let me go straight into so this is where I work. So this is my terminal, and then let me go to where my desktop, because that is where I stored my key pair. So CD, okay, yeah, OneDrive, because I'm in another computer currently. So CD OneDrive, oh, my spelling is correct, it's wrong rather. So CD OneDrive, okay. Second CD desktop. Okay, so I'm within my desktop environment. So where do I have to go? I have to go to my AWS and then spin up a virtual machine. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to launch instance. Let me call my server Ansible server. And that is what we'll be doing on this particular server, having to install Ansible on it. Then, of course, I chose Ubuntu as my AMI. Then my key pair, I already have a key pair and I'll be using it. Okay, fine. I'll be choosing HTTP and HTTPS as my traffic from internet, using an 8 gig RAM storage, and bam. So that's way I've spinned up my my Ansible server. But the thing is that, of course, I need to have my Ansible server on a particular virtual machine or a particular server, and I need to have another, which is going to be my destination server. So I have to create another. So let me call it target server or destination server. You can name it anything. So target server is going to be an Ubuntu server, and still going to be using that same key pair. yeah, ACP and HTTPS 8 gig RAM. And this way I'll be installing, or rather I'll be provisioning my target server. So if I want to check, okay, the list of servers I've created so far. So how do I go about it? I'll reload, and I'll be seeing it right about now. So as you can see, this is target server and this is Ansible server. So we will be communicating to these two servers as we'll be doing a lot of stuff within these two servers. But first, let's go for the Ansible server, and we have to connect to this server. So in order for us to do that, we go to our terminal. Yes. So this way I'll be able to, so my server is up and run. As you can see, Ubuntu at an IP which is 172.168.254. So the first thing I have to do is what, to update the machine. Sudo apt updates. So while I update the machine, the next thing I have to do is okay. So the next thing I have to do is to install my Ansible. But before I install my Ansible, the first thing, another thing I also have to do is to install Python. So because Ansible actually is written in Python, as in the original configuration, the original codes in which Ansible was written. Yeah, so the original it was first built in Python. So oh, you cannot minimize okay. My recording has been tampered with. Let me tweak it a little bit. I don't remember when you are recording this meeting. Okay. Let me see. Let me do this and do this and share my screen. Okay, fine. So we are back. So currently we have our machine being updated, and the next thing we have to do is that we have to install Python. So in order for us to do that, we have to use this command. So right now we are started installation of Python, and we have done sudo update, but we'll still be doing that again. Okay, so let me clear this. Right. Then the next thing I'm going to be doing is installing a software properties common. So these are different things you just have to do while having to install your Python. And then next thing is to run this particular command, which is called you're having to add a repository, and this repository is dead snakes PPA. So that is what you will be doing next. So we allow it to run. So while it's running, okay, it's asked for press enter to continue. So I'm going to click on enter. So while it's running that, then the next thing I have to do is run an installation of Python 3.7. So this is Python 3.3 sudo apt install Python 3.7. I'm going to be saying yes to that. Then I'm also going to be installing Python 3pip. So I'll wait for this to run. Okay, it's done. So let me clear this in order to make it less messy. Then install Python 3pip. And then I'm also going to say yes, I want that installation to be done. And then we will be checking if we have installed these Python packages. In order for us to do that, we'll be running a set of commands, and we'll be ending with hyphen capital letter V. So let this run. While it's running, it's almost done. I click enter VM. Yeah, almost done in less than a minute. Yes, it's done. So let me clear this, and then I want to check for the Python version. As you can see, so we have installed Python 3.7.14, and we also have pip 22.0.2 and all that. So meaning that our installation was successful. So the next thing we have to do is to start the main configuration, or should I say installation rather, of Ansible. So the first thing we have to run is a sudo apt repository, meaning that we are trying to run it from a repository, and we have it over here. And we are going to be doing another update. We always have to update our machine so there won't be mistakes in case there are packages that are quite old, or they might not run without a necessary update. So the main thing for the moment, which is installing Ansible. So that is what we are doing currently. So we have our Ansible machine package being installed currently. So after this, the next thing we have to do is that we have to check if Ansible is actually installed. And one of the ways in which you check this is that Yeah, some people use Ansible, that version, Ansible, maybe dash, or should I say hyphen, capital letter V. But I don't really waste my time doing that. What I do is that I just go to etc, the etc directory. That is where you find all the packages that are being installed within um, within that particular virtual machine. So let me clear this. Ansible has been installed, but let us confirm. So we do a cd slash etc. And then when we do this, let us list it. Oh, so we can see this Ansible. So Ansible is over here. We also have some others, such as Apache 2, which is being installed in this particular virtual machine or in this particular server. So there are a lot of things that are being, provisioned in this server. They came with it for free, but the truth is that, yeah, sometimes if you don't have it, you have to install it. So we have Ansible, and then of course the first thing we have to do now um is to start run our actions on Ansible. However, let us not forget the other server. There's one more thing we have to do to that server, which is having to install Python in that server. We do not really need to install Ansible and Python in both servers. We only need Python in the other. Why? Because the server needs to communicate with the Ansible server with the language it understands, which is Python. So we will go to the next server. Um, the target server is the other server. So let us connect to it. So I'll be going to my terminal once more. We'll be going to my terminal once more. Okay. Yeah. So let me locate my key pair and then see the OneDrive. Let's see the OneDrive, the LS once more, and then see the desktop, the LS again. Yes, we are in the right place. As you can see, a test kit there over here. Remember, that is what we use. And then this way we will connect. I will say yes. Yes, yes, yes. So right now we are in the other server. So as you can see, to run command as administrator user root, you have to use sudo command. So most of the commands we're using are sudo. If you want to, take super, let me first clear this so you can see it clear. So if you want to take a super user permission or privilege, so you can use sudo su, and you will change from Ubuntu to root this part, or this way you are able to have a super user privilege. You are able to have a administrator privilege, but we won't be doing that. So I'll be exiting and going back to Ubuntu as my user. So clear, remember we are going to be installing Python here. So within sudo apt updates, we will be updating this particular machine. And then the next thing we will be doing is having to do the same things um, we had done to the other server. So we were running the same commands, except having to install Ansible. So yeah, let me clear this. Okay. So yes, this is what we want to see. So we are going to the repository currently, copy, paste, right? Yeah. So I will enter, and then the next thing I'm going to be doing is having to install Python. So copy, yeah. So this way I'm installing Python, yes. And then the next thing I'll be doing is also installing pip in Python 3. So I think this should be done. Yes, clean. And then we will be installing pip in Python 3, and I'll be saying yes. And of course, to check if this has been done, I'm going to be using a particular set of commands. Using particular set of commands. Okay, almost done in a minute. Yes, and it's done. So to check if it has been done, so we use this Python 3.7 version. As you can see, it has been installed. So this is what we need to do. So this is my Ansible server. This is um my target server. So over here, another thing we have to do is that we will be SSHing into the other one, of course, communicating to it and all that. But in order for us to communicate it, for our target server to be able to also communicate with our Ansible server, we have to give the public key of our Ansible server to our target server. So how do we do this? Let me clear this. So I'll first create an SSH key gen. You need to create public key and private key. Yes. Then let me cut. Of course, this is a way of showing our public key. This is a way of showing our public key. So as you can see, this is our public key. Then we will go to oh, a minute. My daughter just came in. Okay. You can sit down there. Yeah. Thank you. Sit down. So when did I stop? Okay, fine. So we are just generated a public key for our Ansible server. We will be putting it in our authorized key in our target server. So let's see this. Okay, fine. So let me ls-a. Okay, so this is our SSH. I'll be going into this SSH and I'll be seeing what is inside. You can see the authorized keys. So we have to put it in our authorized keys. So in order for us to go in, use nano SSH authorized key, and then this is what we have. So we will be pasting it over here. So let me copy this, copied, and then I will be pasting it over here. Done. So going out of this nano authorized keys, fine. So this way we know that fine. Our Ansible server is able to communicate with our um with our target server. So the next thing we have to do, remember we said, let me first clear this. So remember we said we entered etc, remember, to get to our Ansible. So we have to know what is inside this Ansible, as we will be performing operations in this Ansible directory. So in order for us to go in, we use cd Ansible and see what is inside. We have ansible.config, we have hosts and roles. In order for us to configure our in order for us to configure or connect to our target server, we have to go to the host. So we'll be using nano hosts. Yeah. So as you can see, this is what we have. So this is the configuration of this is configuration file of Ansible. However, as you can see, we don't have permission to actually edit. So I have to take permission in order for me to do that. Look at it over here. Permission denied, right? Error writing hosts. That means we cannot write host. Why? Permission is denied. So now what we have to do is Control X, go back, and then we have to use sudo so that we can get the permission. Remember I mentioned sudo su the first time. So this time we'll be using sudo nano post, right? So we will be able to make necessary changes. So right about now, the next thing we have to do, or what we are doing now, is having to connect our Ansible server to our remote server or our target server. So we will be using this target server one. Let me copy this. Let me see, let me see, let me see, let me see. Okay, fine. So we'll be using this target server one, and then we will be changing our IP address. So the IP address we will be using is the IP address of our target server. Remember, we already have that, but in order for us to generate that, we will go to EC2 instance connector, and then you can see 54.242.64.104. So we'll be copying that and then replacing it with, yes. So we're putting it over here. This way, fine. We are able to configure our Ansible to be able to communicate with our target server one, which is 54.242 and all that. So we are done with that. So let's save it. All right. So this is done. So in order for us to know if we are successfully connected, what we have to do is use the the command Ansible -m ping all. So if you do that, let's see, yes. So as you can see, it is a success, and to discover that the interpreter Python is what is in Python 3. Remember, we had to install Python 3 in order for us to be able to communicate with our Ansible server. So yes, and you can see when we ping, it's responded with what with pong. So this is actually a success. If you want to see it clearer, let me remove all these or ping all, right? So this is it. And there's another way of actually pinging. If you don't want to use ping up, assuming we had more than 1, 2, 3 servers and you want to ping all of them at the same time, meaning you want to check if authentication or connection was actually right, what you have to do is that you have to just use Ansible -m ping all. However, if you want to target a specific virtual machine or server, what you have to do is this. Let me go back to nano host, right? So as you can see, this is target server one. So if I don't use all, I can just copy out target server one. Let me go back and then say Ansible -m ping. Instead of all, we use target server one, and you find out that it should give us the same thing. So, right? So it was successful. So this is how we have answered the question of this user who said, how do I connect to Ansible? How do I connect Ansible with AWS? So it is very important as a DevOps engineer, automation engineer, you must know how to configure virtual machines and servers in such a way that they can automatically take charge of processes. They're able to carry out operations with or with little human effort, all by just 1 or 2 clicks, depending on what tool you are using. We also have other tools that also does the same. We have GitLab, we have Bitbucket, we have others that actually do CI/CD. Yeah, so that's about it in answering how do I connect with Ansible with AWS. And I hope you've learned 1 or 2 things that are useful for you. So that's what we'll be stopping today, and do have a lovely morning, evening, night, depending on where you are. So bye-bye.